The study of the history of religion shows that new faiths don't just appear out of thin air. Instead, they often develop from existing ones. This can happen when people disagree with the current teachings or when a new leader or idea emerges. For example, Christianity grew out of Judaism, and Mormonism came from Christianity. Sometimes, when a main religion is challenged, a new branch or denomination forms instead of a whole new religion. These denominations don't completely change the original faith, but rather find new ways to express it. They keep the main beliefs but add their own twist. The Elvis phenomenon has roots in Western and Christian culture. Elvis grew up in a region of the United States known as the Bible Belt, where Christianity is a big part of people's lives. When he was young, his family took him to church where he sang gospel music. He also read the Bible and made notes in it. In fact, his Bible was so well used that it sold for £59,000 at an auction in 2012. Elvis fans from the US, Europe, and other English-speaking countries share a similar cultural background rooted in Christianity. If they find a spiritual connection to Elvis, it's natural that they'll use familiar language to describe it. This doesn't mean they're creating an Elvis religion or a new type of Christian church. Instead, fans have found a way to express their spiritual feelings through Elvis, something that was once mainly associated with traditional Christian churches. Many fans who see Elvis as a spiritual figure compare him to Jesus. Some fans display pictures of Jesus and Elvis side by side, giving them equal importance. Artists often mix images of Jesus and Elvis together. Sometimes this is done in a humorous way, like a 1995 picture by Chris Rywalt that shows Elvis with a Sacred Heart, just like in some Catholic art. This image has been used in many places, including by the First Church of Jesus Christ, Elvis, which has a slogan that says, "A Presley, which is Elvis the King, was born to you today in Memphis." Some people who are deeply religious are offended by Rywalt's satire. However, good satire can also point to a deeper truth. Rywalt has said, "At first, comparing Elvis Presley to Jesus seems ridiculous. Elvis didn't die for us or our sins. Instead, he was destroyed by his own excesses and the extreme devotion of his fans. Despite his over-the-top lifestyle and performances, Elvis seemed vulnerable." Rywalt suggests that, like Elvis, we all have a deep, sacred part of ourselves. There's a Christmas card with a message that's opposite of the usual holiday greeting. It's meant to be humorous and ironic, but it's also very offensive to people who strongly believe in Christianity. The card shows Jesus wearing a white jumpsuit, looking like a fan, and paying tribute to Elvis Presley. Elvis has his hand raised, as if he's blessing Jesus. They're both surrounded by small angels, called cherubs. Some artwork about Elvis is meant to be taken seriously and treated with respect. For example, Isabel Tanner's artwork shows Elvis in a spiritual way, surrounded by light. One of her paintings is similar to a famous image of Jesus called the Veil of Veronica. Tanner says her paintings are inspired by Elvis's love and kindness. She believes that Elvis helped guide her artwork and that it shows that life goes on forever. Whether art that makes fun of Elvis or art that is meant to be serious shows the greater truth is open to question. Sometimes it's hard to tell if a piece of Elvis art is meant to be funny or serious. For example, it's not clear what the artists intended when they created the strange and scary pictures of Elvis that can be seen in Mexico on the Day of the Dead. Elvis Jesus is a clothing brand that combines religion and rock music in its designs. The company was started in 2005 by David Malin, who wanted to create casual clothes, especially t-shirts, that were eye-catching and unique. He mixed religious images with famous rock album covers to create something new and interesting. The brand's name, Elvis Jesus, is a bit surprising and attention-grabbing, which is exactly what the creator wanted. He chose this name to appeal to customers who like to think outside the box and don't conform to traditional norms. Elvis was surrounded by a small group of close friends and employees early in his career. One of these friends was George Klein, who had known Elvis since they attended Humes High School in Memphis. George said, "I knew Elvis since we were in school together, and there was something really special about him. I don't want to compare him to anyone important in a bad way, but he was like Jesus." Joe Esposito first met Elvis when Elvis was in the military. His thoughts about Elvis matched George Klein's. Alan Weiss, a Hollywood screenwriter, has remembered watching Elvis at work on a movie set. We were amazed by the transformation. It was clear that something special was happening. The energy in the room was electric. It felt powerful and intense, like a big event was unfolding. It was impossible to deny the person's talent. It was obvious and undeniable. He was a force to be reckoned with, and ignoring it would be like trying to pretend a live wire isn't shocking. Sheila Ryan, Elvis's girlfriend in the 1970s, said that Elvis had some very special qualities that no one else has ever had. These qualities are hard to put into words because they were so unique and special. She described them as being almost magical or heavenly, like something an angel might have. Mother Dolores Hart, a nun and former actress, starred in a movie with Elvis Presley in 1957. Years later, in 2013, she visited Elvis Week and talked to fans. She remembered listening to Elvis sing on the movie set and how amazed she was by his talent. She said that Elvis had a special gift and that his voice was meant to be shared with the world. Robert Alanis, a man who produces films and collects Elvis memorabilia, saw Elvis perform in concert 3 times. He was amazing. It was like he was magical. The first time I saw him, I thought I saw a special light around him when he came on stage. It was like he was a superstar, almost like a god. Robert Campbell, a big Elvis fan who never met him, had a strange and spiritual experience. His story is similar to the story of St. Paul, who had a life-changing experience on a road, and to what some people say happens when they almost die. Campbell said that he suddenly found himself in a kind of heaven and saw a very bright light. Out of the light came a voice that sounded like loud thunder, but the words were easy to understand. The voice said, "Go back and tell them Elvis's." Campbell thought this meant that Elvis was not just a famous person, but a kind of judge and savior. Emmanuel is the Son of God that God promised to send. He came not just for the Jewish people, but for everyone. Emmanuel and Elvis are the same. He's the Son of God, and God in human form. He was treated unfairly and died like a lamb. The stories about him are like prophecies that tell us about his life. He came back to life and will return again to judge everyone. This will be Judgment Day, which is coming soon. Campbell had an idea about Elvis based on a vision, but Christopher Matthews, an Australian author, spent 10 years researching and wrote nearly 1,800 pages of evidence. His book, The Name Code, is a 3-part series that explores a unique idea about Elvis. Matthews claims that he discovered hidden messages in the names of Elvis and his family. He thinks the Bible also has secret codes that can be understood by people who know Hebrew. According to Matthews, his research shows that Jesus is not the Messiah, but Elvis Presley is actually the Son of God. Another author has written about a special connection between Elvis and the Bible. Cinda Godfrey's book, The Elvis Jesus Mystery, says that Elvis, Adam, and Jesus are actually the same person, but living in different times. Discover the surprising truth about Elvis's identity and why it had to be kept a secret. Look at the many clues he left behind to help us uncover the truth. You can even find connections between Elvis's life and the Holy Bible. Learn how the Great Pyramid in Egypt might be linked to Elvis, and if the empty tomb in the pyramid is similar to the empty grave at Graceland. Find out how famous prophets like Nostradamus and Edgar Cayce predicted Elvis's rise and fall. You'll also learn what it means if you have a match of Elvis's face in your fingerprints. Learn the real reason Elvis faked his own death in 1977 and who might have wanted him dead. Explore how astronomy, astrology, and ancient stories all seem to predict Elvis's arrival in the world at this time in history. Godfrey wrote a book that claimed to have surprising proof from the Bible that Elvis, not Jesus, might be the savior that people had been waiting for. There is a small group of fans who are very devoted to Elvis. They pray to him, feel a spiritual connection with him, and create special spaces to honor him. They believe Elvis was an extraordinary being from beyond this world. This group of fans is often called the Elvii. They are very secretive, but they have created a kind of faith centered around their love for Elvis. They sometimes refer to him simply as E or El, which is also a name for God in the Old Testament. When they meet, they can recognize each other by using this special name for Elvis. A recording of a phone call seems to be Elvis talking to his friend Wanda June Hill. In the recording, Elvis talks about some unusual ideas he has about his life. He says, "I'm not from around here. I'm a person now, but my real self isn't from Earth. I'm from somewhere else out in space." He mentions a star called Rigel and says that's near his home planet. "I have a different sun called the Blue Star and 8 moons," Elvis says on the recording. "I even have a big house underneath the surface of my planet." You might think I'm making this up, but it's true. Esposito says his friend had a hard time understanding why he was so successful and why he had such a big impact on people. Elvis's upbringing in a Southern church didn't prepare him to ask big questions about life. He grew up with a type of Christianity that focused on gospel music and the Bible. This kind of church helped people who weren't famous or rich feel better by giving them exciting spiritual experiences now and promising them good things after they die. When Elvis became famous, he started looking for different answers about life. He turned to new and unusual spiritual ideas with the help of his hairdresser, Larry Geller, who became like a teacher to him. Elvis thought of Larry Geller as a special person who could help him, but Geller never became a close friend despite spending a lot of time with Elvis. Colonel Parker, Elvis's manager, didn't trust Geller and was worried that Geller's influence would reduce his own power over Elvis. Colonel Parker thought Geller was a trickster who sold fake ideas. Priscilla, Elvis's girlfriend, didn't like how much time Elvis spent thinking about spiritual things with Geller's help. Elvis's friends and bodyguards, known as the Memphis Mafia, didn't care about Geller's ideas and resented anyone who came between Elon and them. Colonel Parker eventually fired Geller after Elvis had an accident and couldn't object. On the colonel's orders, Elvis's book collection, which Geller had helped him build, was destroyed. Geller returned to Graceland near the end of Elvis's life and was shocked to see how poorly Elvis was doing, both physically and mentally. Geller helped prepare Elvis's body for his funeral. After Elvis died, Geller wrote a book about his time with Elvis, which gave a detailed and interesting account of Elvis's life spiraling out of control. Geller remembered that Elvis was very interested in Jesus, not just the image of Jesus, but the person he was. Elvis didn't believe that Jesus was the only Son of God. Instead, he thought that everyone had a little bit of Jesus in them and could be like him. Elvis's idea of Jesus was different from the way modern Christians think of him. Elvis believed that Jesus shared very important and deep secrets during his time on Earth. However, Elvis thought that the stories about Jesus that we have today are not as detailed or meaningful as they originally were. He believed that Jesus experienced everything that people do, and that he was the best example of humanity. Jesus suffered, but Elvis thought that Jesus felt a deep joy and peace even in his suffering. When Elvis felt like he was truly struggling, he would compare himself to Jesus and say that he understood why God put him on Earth. He felt that his own struggles were a part of his purpose. Geller thinks that Elvis's birth, life, and death have similarities with stories from the Bible. According to his fans, Elvis was born in a small house in Tupelo similar to a stable. At the time of his birth, a blue light appeared above the house, which reminds people of the star that appeared at Jesus' birth. One story about Elvis's birth goes like this. After his mother Gladys gave birth, his father Vernon went outside and prayed to God for giving them a healthy child. As he turned back to the house, he saw a blue light coming from the sky and shining on the house where his wife and baby Elvis were. Years later, Vernon said that he knew Elvis was special because God had shone a light on him from birth. Hill thinks that Elvis's birth was special, just like the births of other famous spiritual leaders. These leaders were not just ordinary leaders, but were meant to play a unique role in the world. Hill doesn't think Elvis was a god, but believes that his birth, life, and death are similar to those of other spiritual leaders who were born for a special purpose. According to some fans, the house shook when Elvis was born. The musician Nick Cave tells a dramatic version of Elvis's birth in his song, Tupelo. He describes the moment Elvis and his twin brother were born in a small, rough home during a heavy rainstorm. It was so frightening that the chickens wouldn't lay eggs and the children were too scared to sleep. Larry Geller's version of Elvis's birth story is not as exciting as others, but it's still interesting. He says he heard the story from Vernon Elvis Presley, Elvis's father. According to Vernon, when he saw a strange blue light, he was outside having a cigarette. Vernon also told Geller about the night Elvis was conceived. He said that when he was with his wife, Gladys, he suddenly felt like he was floating in a big, empty space. Then he came back to his body and knew that something important had happened. When Gladys later told him she was pregnant, he wasn't surprised at all. There are stories about Elvis's childhood that are similar to stories about Jesus's childhood found in some old, unofficial Christian texts. Author Maya Kristen Nartumid says that as a child, Elvis would often go to the fields and streams alone and mysterious beings would talk to him. Sometimes they would appear as shining lights. They told him that he was special and had an important job to do on Earth. They also showed him pictures in his mind of a man wearing a white suit, standing on a stage with bright lights. At the time, Elvis didn't understand what these visions meant, but they were showing him what his future would be like. Nartumid believes that Elvis still talks to people from beyond the grave, and she claims that he has sent her messages. Her collaborator Simeon believes that Elvis's soul was special and came from another world to teach people. He chose to live in a human body that wasn't perfect, but that would help him achieve his mission. In Nartumid's book, Blue Star Love, there's a picture of Elvis riding a unicorn in a fantasy world. The book also includes a recording of a conversation between Elvis and a woman named Wanda June Hill, where Elvis supposedly talks about being from another star system. According to Nartumid, Elvis heard his own health on purpose to fulfill his life's purpose, which was to spread love and light around the world. She thinks he used his music to share this light with others. Nartumid also says that Elvis taught his daughter how to see angels and that he prepared himself spiritually before each show. She even claims that Elvis could move objects with his mind and make his voice appear in distant places. Elvis's close friend and spiritual advisor, Larry Geller, says that Elvis knew his own limitations. He knew he wasn't a god. However, in the stories Geller tells about Elvis, he makes it seem like Elvis had special powers. For example, Geller wrote that he once saw Elvis help a man who was having a heart attack. One time, Elvis helped Jerry Schilling after he got hurt bad in a motorcycle accident. Jerry couldn't move, but the next morning, Jerry woke up feeling fine, as if he was completely healed. People who knew Elvis well have talked about how special he was. Sonny West, who was close to Elvis but later wrote a book that revealed some of Elvis's secrets, said that being around Elvis was a powerful experience. He had a special charm that drew people to him. Elvis's stepbrother, Rick Stanley, felt a deep devotion to him. He looked up to Elvis as a father, mother, teacher, boss, and best friend, and would have done anything for him. Many people who knew Elvis personally have a lot to say about him. But what about those who only know the legend of Elvis? Thousands of fans visit his home, Graceland, every year. When they leave, they often write messages on the wall outside. Some are funny, while others simply sign their name and date with a short message. Some people express their love for Elvis, writing things like, "I love you, Elvises." Others use lyrics from his songs to show their devotion. Many fans thank Elvis for making the world a better place, and some even write that they believe he's still alive in their hearts. People visiting Graceland often write messages on the wall for Elvis, as if he's still connected to Earth after he died. Some are funny. "Elvis, say hi to Michael for us. We miss him too." Others are more serious and prayer-like. "Elvis, don't forget about us." Some people also compare Elvis to Jesus. Elvis and Jesus are both loved by us. Two people have made a huge impact on the world: Jesus and Elvises. Couples often write that they got engaged while visiting Graceland. One person wrote, "I proposed to my girlfriend in the jungle room." On Facebook, fans shared their own stories. One person wrote, "Signing the wall at Graceland was the best part of my trip. Thanks, Elvis, for the memories." Another person wrote, "My family and I signed the wall 10 years ago. As we finished, it started raining, and we felt like Elvis was crying happy tears for us." At first, it might seem like the messages are just from fans who love Elvis. But among the many writings in black marker, some are very touching and meaningful. "Loving Elvis makes life's tough times easier. Elvis helped me through every tough time." This message is similar to a popular story about footprints in the sand, where Jesus helps someone through life's difficulties. "He changed my life forever. I felt a strong pull. I visited Graceland. It was a life-changing experience. I see myself in a beautiful afterlife, walking with Elvis's. Angels will help me get there. I saw Elvis's ghost at Graceland. He walked right through the gates. I dream of seeing Elvis in a perfect world someday. Elvis is amazing. Elvis sacrificed for our mistakes. Elvis is a godlike figure to me. Many deep messages are left without the writer's name. Maybe people feel safe saying what they really think because they are anonymous. This is like when someone confesses their sins in a church and the priest keeps it secret. A fan wrote on Facebook, "I wrote on the wall and only Elvis and I know what it says." It seems like many fans think Elvis reads the messages they leave. One fan said, "Even if Elvis isn't reading them from heaven, he would have loved reading each one." We love you, Elvis. Fans visiting Elvis's home, Graceland, often take souvenirs but also feel the need to leave something behind. Many bring fancy wreaths and tributes to place on his grave. Every day, new gifts arrive, including flowers, messages, and pictures. The meditation garden is always decorated with colorful and creative gifts. Some fans even make their own special offerings, like a gift made from tinfoil, gift wrap, and plastic flowers from a 15-year-old disabled fan named Ralph from Germany. Another example combines Elvis pictures with pages from one of his favorite books. These gifts are similar to ex-votos, which are small tokens left at shrines to ask for or thank a saint for healing. Fans who leave these gifts, such as Elvis dolls or pictures, seem to believe they have a special connection to him, just like people who leave ex-votos at shrines. The actions of fans have been compared to those of people who visit important Christian sites. A long time ago, a visitor to Jerusalem's Church of the Holy Sepulchre scratched a boat on a wall and wrote, "O Lord, we have come." Similarly, fans have written messages at Graceland like, "We made it," and "We are here." Elvis fans also visit Tupelo, where he was born. They can see the small white house where he grew up. Nearby is the church he went to as a child, which was moved to the Elvis Presley birthplace complex. Visitors can experience what church services were like when Elvis was a child through a special presentation. The simple church building will seem quiet compared to the energetic and lively music and sermons. Guests will see and hear the preacher, the choir, and the congregation singing and swaying to the music. The birthplace complex has a different feel than Graceland. It's less commercial and more peaceful. There's a museum and souvenir shops, but it's a more calming place. The small house where Elvis was born is at the center, which adds to the humble atmosphere. Visitors can explore the area freely, without being rushed or controlled. A circular path, called the Walk of Life, takes fans through the years of Elvis's life, from 1935 to 1977. This path is like a labyrinth, where people can stop and think about important events in Elvis's life, and their own life too. The Elvis Memorial Chapel is a special place where people can go to think and reflect. It has a unique stained glass window that combines Christian and Elvis themes. Elvis himself wanted a quiet place like this near his childhood home. Today, the chapel is used for weddings and other important events. Visitors to Tupelo, Elvis's hometown, can take a tour of the city to see places that were important to him. They can visit the school he first attended, Lawhorn Elementary, and the hardware store where he bought his first guitar. Tupelo is a meaningful place for Elvis fans because it shows where he came from. Elvis was born into a poor family, which is an important part of his story. His early love of gospel music also had a big impact on his career. Another interesting fact about Elvis's life is that he had a twin brother, Jesse, who was born still. According to legend, Jesse was buried in a shoebox in an unmarked grave. Some fans visit the local cemetery and try to find Jesse's grave, even though it's not officially marked. Bill Yen's book, The Field Guide to Elvis Shrines, is a complete guide to the many places connected to Elvis. It lists all the homes he owned, concert halls where he performed, churches he attended, and restaurants he ate at. The book also includes walking and driving tours of cities such as Memphis, Tupelo, and Las Vegas. These tours have interesting stories about the history of each place. The New York Times said that with this guide, fans could visit many places that Elvis went to. However, some of these places do not have any special connection to Elvis today. They are simply places he visited at some point. A true Elvis shrine is a special place with pictures of Elvis and Elvis music. Fans can sit there, listen to his music, and even light a candle to show their respect. Elvis makes his fans feel better when they're down. There's always an Elvis song that matches how they're feeling. Many fans collect small things that remind them of Elvis, even if they're not worth much money. These items might be old newspaper articles, twigs from the grounds of his home Graceland, or expensive souvenirs. One fan even has a life-sized fake Elvis that's dressed up like him. Some fans of Elvis Presley say they need to spend time with him every day. They listen to his music almost exclusively and feel a strong connection to him. One fan said, "It's like he's singing just to me." This Elvis time is when they can let their emotions out, think about their problems, and feel like they're sharing their thoughts and feelings with him. They usually don't tell anyone, even their partners, what they're doing during this time. They might feel a little embarrassed to admit how much they love Elvis and talk about it quietly. One fan finally confessed, "You treat him like a god. It's wrong, but that's what you do." She had been pretending that she only admired Elvis, but then she revealed that she actually prayed to him, not just to God. In the summer, fans often set up special shrines outside to honor Elvis. They use many candles to create a warm glow on pictures of him. The candles are usually arranged in a heart shape, the shape of a lightning bolt, or to spell out his name. Many of these shrines can be seen on the sidewalks near Graceland during Elvis Week. Some fans also create shrines inside their homes, which can be very elaborate and beautiful. Some Elvis fans have built shrines in their homes that are very elaborate. One fan, Don Epperly from Roanoke, Virginia, created a miniature Elvis village next to his house. It's called Elvis City, and people came to visit from all around. Don spent a lot of time making new exhibits and improving the old ones. Some fans keep their shrines private, while others build them to honor Elvis and attract new fans. A fan from Denmark, Henrik Knudsen, built a huge Elvis museum in 2011. It's called Graceland Ronners, and it's a copy of Elvis's mansion. It's even bigger than the real thing, with a restaurant, shop, and museum with 6,000 Elvis items. It cost a lot of money to build, £3 million. Henrik used to have a small museum that attracted 25,000 visitors each year. Now, he hopes to double or triple the number of visitors, who will pay £11 to walk around the house and feel like they're in the real Graceland. The Danish Graceland is very popular with visitors. One review on TripAdvisor says, "This place is so nice. It's a strange but great idea to build a copy of Graceland in Ronners." Another visitor says, "If you want to experience Elvis outside of the US, you have to come here. And the diner, Highway 51, is great. The diner serves a special meal that Elvis loved: peanut butter and mashed banana on fried bread." Elvis fans can sometimes be tricky to figure out, as some people like to play jokes. Bill Beanie had a small museum near St. Louis that claimed Elvis was still alive. Inside the museum, there was a fake coffin with a pretend dead Elvis. When visitors said that the fake Elvis didn't look like the real Elvis, Bill Beanie would joke that the real Elvis in his coffin at Graceland didn't look like himself either. Historically, pilgrimages have been a mix of spiritual duties and fun vacations. A famous example is Chaucer's Canterbury Tales, which shares stories that travelers told to entertain each other on their way to visit a shrine. These stories weren't always about spiritual or moral topics, but also included lighthearted and humorous tales. Similarly, Elvis fans visit Graceland, especially during Elvis Week, and are treated to a variety of entertainment. While most of it is about Elvis, there are also other activities. For Mary Hancock Hines, the trip is about more than just Elvis. It's also a chance to reunite with friends and enjoy good food. She calls it her Hajj, a term typically used to describe a spiritual pilgrimage, but for her, it's a time to connect with her family of fellow fans. Gary Vican, a scholar, compares Graceland to a special kind of holy place. This type of place is associated with an important event or person, and people believe it has a special power. Graceland is extra special because Elvis lived, died, and is buried there. For many years, Christians have believed that a holy place can pass on its special power to the people who visit it. Visitors to Graceland often do things that are similar to what people do at other holy places. They travel to get there, perform rituals, leave gifts, and take mementos. People might pray, show respect, or ask for healing when they visit Graceland. If people return to the same place every year, it helps keep the place special. The way a holy place is designed is also important. It should help visitors focus on what's special about the place. At Graceland, the meditation garden is a very special spot. It's where Elvis is buried, and it has a statue of Christ and a fountain. Fans like to visit the garden, especially when it's quiet. Every morning, visitors can walk up to the garden for free. Fans leave personal gifts on Elvis's grave, telling a story about their connection with him. These gifts are often elaborate and take days to prepare. They include pictures of Elvis that are meaningful to the fan, along with words from their favorite songs. One gift in 1989 caught VCAN's attention. A fan had created a special display with a picture of Elvis bowing his head after singing. The picture was surrounded by pink plastic roses and photos of Elvis's grave. A handwritten sign in front of the display read, "I come to the garden alone." These words are from a hymn that Elvis sang and recorded, and they add deeper meaning to the fan's gift. The effect is to connect Elvis to Jesus and the meditation garden to the Garden of Gethsemane. This makes the people who created the memorial and the fans who visit feel like they're part of a spiritual experience. This happens especially during the quiet morning hours just before sunrise, when devoted fans visit the garden alone and feel like they're meeting with Elvis and Jesus. Many fans believe that Elvis's spirit is still at Graceland, watching over them. Some people claim to have seen his ghost in various places around the mansion. They say he looks out at them from an upstairs window or walks around the grounds near his own grave. A few fans have even reported seeing a young Elvis, dressed in his army uniform, trying to hitch a ride to Graceland. Others have seen him walking with his mother, Gladys, on the lawn. A ghost hunter named Susan Shepard told a strange story about visiting Elvis's house, Graceland, with her family. Her 3-year-old daughter, Scarlett, wandered off and couldn't be found. When they finally found her, she was playing near Elvis's grave. She said a nice man in a white suit had taken her on a tour of the house and then left her outside. This man was never seen by anyone else. Elvis's ghost is also mentioned in a song called Walking in Memphis. Some people claim to have seen Elvis's ghost in Las Vegas too. At the Hilton Hotel, a spooky figure in a sparkly white suit has been spotted, but whenever someone tries to catch him, he disappears. There are also stories about a ghostly Elvis driving a Cadillac around the city, but the car always vanishes into a wall. After Elvis died, many people reported seeing or communicating with him in strange and unexplainable ways. Some of these people were huge fans, but many were not. 10 years after his death, a psychiatrist named Dr. Raymond Moody studied these reports. He found that ordinary people who were not obsessed with Elvis or the paranormal were claiming to have had experiences with the singer. For example, a police officer said that Elvis appeared to him in a dream and gave him information that helped him find his missing son. Another couple said that Elvis comforted them after their 10-year-old daughter died, telling them that he had welcomed her to heaven. Dr. Moody believes that hundreds of people have had similar experiences with Elvis. It's worth noting that Dr. Moody made a distinction between people who had these experiences and those who were obsessed with Elvis. Some people with mental health problems became fixated on Elvis, believing that he was controlling their minds or that they were related to him. One unusual case involved a mother who thought her 6-year-old son was the reincarnation of Elvis. The son, Jeremy, also believed he was Elvis. Some people believe that Elvis has returned to life in a new body. One example is a South African singer named Ray Dillon, who has a lot of fans. He was born on the same day that Elvis died, and people think he looks like Elvis. Ray is also a good singer and guitar player. Some things that have happened in his life are similar to things that happened to Elvis. Another singer, Adam Lambert, who was on the TV show American Idol, has also been compared to Elvis. Whenever a young singer with talent and a certain style performs on stage, someone is likely to say that they might be Elvis reincarnated.